I'm going to try not to overreact to this South Carolina loss to Georgia.
Is it a good thing to, I guess, have a positive outlook over like a moral victory?
Well, I don't like calling them moral victories, but you can definitely take a lot of positives out from a loss.
I think anytime we were almost a 5 touchdown underdog, 27.5 points, 10-point loss. I mean, there's a lot of positives to take out.
There was a lot of positives. The biggest thing for me was the line played well for especially what they're going up against.
Mm-hmm.
The first half they played stellar. They didn't play terrible in the second half. We had 3 sacks, I think, but a lot of that came at towards the end of the game when they knew that we were passing, they knew that we were having to try and stretch the field, and so I mean they just dropped back and then.
And I think it shows the type of recruiting we've done because, I mean, our starting left tackle was a true freshman.
Right.
So I think that shows it sucks looking at it now because it's so it's tough to see it happening. But with the class we had come in this year and then the class coming in next year, I think the offensive line will be okay.
Yeah, the offensive line, and they're getting better now. Like I said, it's a positive that you can take. Spencer Rattler still looked good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he did have 2 interceptions, but again, those were garbage time interceptions when they were just basically playing, dropping back and just knowing that we had to pass and pass deep.
And like you said, when you don't really have a run game and you're having to pass it 42 times, and you're trying to make a play,
right?
And instead of at the beginning of the game, like sometimes you can take those little dink and dunk passes,
right?
But when you're down 10, haven't been able to score, you're just going to try to force some balls, and fortunately, that's kind of what it was.
Yeah, that's still a lot of positives to take. Line played well. Rattler still is playing well. The defense played, I thought, extremely well for what they were going up against. I mean, they gave up 3 points in the first half. Yeah, they gave up 2 back-to-back touchdowns coming out of the half, but then after that, they didn't give up anything. After those 2 touchdowns,
They scored their points all in the third quarter. Didn't score any in the fourth quarter.
Exactly,
which I think like I said, is a sign that maybe we did overreact a little bit after the North Carolina game, which it's easy to do.
Yeah.
When you kind of play as poorly as they did.
And again, I still think if you flip that Furman and North Carolina game, South Carolina probably beats North Carolina. I don't think that North Carolina is head and shoulders better than us.
No.
And South Carolina showed that yesterday. I mean, they could have easily won that game.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that hurt us is we can't run the ball. When you're up 14-3 and you need to extend drives and kind of burn some clock, and you don't have the ability to do that. And a lot of that is that for some reason they're still boneheaded about playing Joyner as the feature back.
Yeah.
And he's a great player, great athlete.
Yeah.
In all other areas of the field, he's great, but he just doesn't have that running back vision.
Yeah, we are 8th. We are ranked 8th nationally in the passing game, 130th in rushing offense after 3 games.
Completely imbalanced.
And and Beamer even said this in his post-game press conference. He's like, not a lot of teams run the ball well against this defense. But
we haven't ran it well.
But our leading rusher yesterday was Spencer Rattler.
Right.
And those were off scramble plays. Yeah. I mean, Dakereon Joyner had 5 rushing attempts for 10 yards. Mario Anderson, 2 rushes for 9 yards. I don't care how good your quarterback is, but if you can't get a ground game established, it's going to be maybe not a long season, but that's not a recipe for success to be a successful offense.
It's one thing if your offense is throwing the ball a lot and you're scoring 5-6 touchdowns a game. Yeah. That's one thing. Mm-hmm. But when you're throwing it well enough to move the ball, but then you kind of stall out because eventually they just play back. Mm-hmm. There's no threat to run the ball at all.
Yeah.
It's hard to throw the ball all game long.
Yeah.
Especially when the defense knows that's what you're going to do.
And I feel like we passed the ball majority of the time in the second half.
Yeah. We passed the ball the majority of the time in the first half. Mm-hmm. We basically just used – and it was a good game plan coming in. We knew that we can run the ball consistently well.
Yeah.
So we did the short – passes is basically just an extension of the run game.
Yeah.
And that was working, but then, again, defense adjusts to that and shuts that down.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to continually adjust, and when you can't run the ball at all, that just takes that whole aspect of the game out.
Yeah. And I mean, major credit to our receiving team because Juice Wells going out after the first touchdown, which I think his foot injury is just way worse than what we thought.
It's a broken bone.
Well, and I think Beamer even said at halftime he already has a screw in there, so it's kind of protecting it. But at the same time, it's clearly he's not 100%.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, it's tough because, like I said, he has that screw in there that's protecting it. It allows him to kind of play.
Yeah.
But I think it's better to just sit him out 2 or 3 weeks, let that thing heal up.
Yeah.
And then, come back for the second half of the season, because it's not helping us now when you try and factor him into the game plan and then he's there for 3 plays and then he's out for the rest of the game. That's tough.
And apparently, I just, and you were texting me this yesterday, I don't think Nicholas Harbor is very skilled on the offensive side of the ball, because apparently he's still learning that position. And I think his main position in high school is on defense.
Right, it was.
So I mean, I'm assuming that's why we don't really see him on the offensive side of the ball. In high school, he
only came on to playing tight end there towards the end of his high school career, and I think it was more of just him wanting to score and things like. I mean, he's not going to take as much of a beating playing offense, especially when he does have a secondary career, with track, and he's damn good at that. So I mean, he's going to want to continue to do that. So I think the tight end thing is more of him protecting himself a little bit too. But
and
he's still learning.
And they're teaching him position. I mean, I think he can catch the ball, but it's like, okay, is he running a route correctly? Can he block?
Right.
I mean, because he's going to be a tight end, or on the
a
slot
Jaheim
receiver.
Bell type of player is basically what he is. A faster version of that, I believe.
What do you think about the environment at Sanford Stadium yesterday?
Oh, it was electric. Had to be after what.
How insecure of a coach do you have to be for and this is, I wouldn't even put this on Kirby Smart, for that reporter to hold on to that clip for over 2 months when he didn't even mention Georgia.
Right.
They asked him verbatim, what are the toughest places you've played at, or the loudest places you've played at, paraphrasing. And he mentioned Texas A&M and Tennessee. That's it. He didn't say anything bad about
He just
Georgia.
didn't mention Georgia. Just to him personally, those 2 other places are the places that he considered tougher to play.
And the Georgia's fan base is very similar to Clemson's. They are very, we're going to get hate for this, I'm sure. But it's like, if you have to take a clip that doesn't even exist to try to motivate your fan base to come out. And like, I get it. You're the number 1 team. You haven't lost there in over 2 years. We were the last team to beat them at home.
Right.
And I know not every game is going to be, show up on the Richter scale, when you're playing an inferior opponent. But if you have to try to drum up some kind of controversy like this to try to get your fan base to show up, maybe it's not that tough of a place to play at.
It's one of those things that Dabo, he hasn't done it as much here recently, but when they were at that peak of what they were, he would do the same thing. He would take one little thing and, oh, poor little Clemson, nobody respects us. Everybody respects you, dude.
Yeah.
You're just, and I get it. Sometimes you got to keep your players motivated, I guess. But
and that's what good coaches do.
If they're an elite team and you're the number 1 team in the nation, you don't have to come up with stuff to, hype your players up or your fan base up. They should want to do it just because it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I when you have reporters, and I don't know who the guy is, but he writes for some fan site.
Right.
But like trashing Tonka Hemingway, like who names their child Tonka anyways? It's just like they were coming after this kid for he didn't even do anything wrong.
Right.
And like I'm curious if Beamer even said anything to it, because that would have royally pissed me off. Because you don't see coaches name players like that.
That was a big thing for me.
If anything, it's a positive thing. Like Spencer Rattler at the end of the day, he was just too dang good. We couldn't stop him. But for him to like name out Tonka and say, "Oh, he called out our fans," he didn't even mention your school.
Right. That was a big thing for me. It's like, all right, it's one thing to take the clip and spin it however you want to spin it.
Yeah.
But the fact that Kirby Smart then took it a step further to say, "Oh, Tonka said this about us, so I guess our fans will have to come out and show Tonka, what they can do." Like, wow, what's the point of? First of all, it was stupid to even bring that up.
Yeah. And
second of all, to like specifically point out a kid in a negative, context. Just to hype your fan base up. I mean, it was just way too much for me.
They're an insecure fan base, and they're all. And I think Athens is a good city,
right?
But I mean, I wasn't overly impressed when I went there. And that's okay. Like not Avery Stadium is designed to be this loud place that just it makes it a tough place to play. And I'm not saying that it's not, but I didn't think it seemed to affect our guys yesterday.
Nah, not at all. I think
just weren't the better team.
They're towards I'm not saying that we aren't. They're obviously better than us, but I think another thing is the depth. Like they aren't rebuilding.
Yeah.
No matter what, Beamer's had 2 good years. Where he's overachieved for sure, and so people already have it in our mind like, all right, well, we got to win more games, but we're still in the middle of a rebuild. Like these are still players that some of them he did not recruit.
Yeah.
So he's at the end of the day, it's still a rebuild, and you're facing a team that's not. They're back-to-back, national champions, and the players that they do lose, they just have somebody already ready to step in.
Yeah.
The depth. That's really what showed up in the second half.
And I think another thing it showed yesterday, I don't think there's like a clear-cut number 1 team in the country.
No, I don't
and I think it just goes to show how good Stetson Bennett was.
Yeah.
Like Carson Beck that offense did not look that dynamic yesterday. No, there's nothing that stuck out where and even on their defensive side, they're not, I don't think they're as good as they have been in years past.
No, specifically on the line, because I thought that they would definitely dominate us on the line. The fact that we only gave up 3 sacks to them, when we gave up 9 in the first week, and like you said, now we're even playing a true freshman at tackle, and had to replace the other tackle as well. There's clearly not a true number 1 team in the nation.
And I know Beamer even said they added a lot around our offensive line to help with the blocking, but you have to be, I guess, optimistic.
You definitely did see a lot more of the chip blocks from the tight ends. Trey Knox was, constantly before he would go out, just give him one little bump.
Yeah.
And we talked about it in the first week, that's what you got to do, to help these linemen out is, all right, you got to throw the running back in there. Yeah. He's got to throw some blocks. Tight ends have got a chip block. Just give them that 1 to 2 seconds where you just knock somebody.
And it doesn't take much.
And he caught a lot of passes off of that where he would just come in, chip 4 seconds, scoot out.
He didn't have that great of a day yesterday, but I think just in all the elements, it's just unfortunately it's going to happen sometimes. Right. And that's even going back to the run game. It doesn't, it's to carry on is learning that position still, but like you said, with the blocking from the tight ends, it's just that 1 little 2-second thing, and that's maybe staying patient, waiting for something to open up. I think they need to go to just using a normal, true running back
for sure. We don't even use Juju at all anymore.
He's just, I don't know. It's just, he's not a true, he's just so.
We need to play, Anderson needs to be our true back. Yeah. He looks good when he's in there. He runs hard.
Yeah.
He has that running back vision because he's played running back his entire career. So, it's not a knock on Joyner, and Joyner definitely needs to be on the field a lot.
Yeah, he does.
Just not in that, line up behind the quarterback.
Like a true running back position. Yeah.
He needs to be, more of a slot guy.
Kind of like how we're using Doty.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's a dynamic athlete, and
we want the ball in his hands for sure.
Yeah, like we even said last year with Jordan, you need him on the field because he creates plays.
He's just not. You're kind of setting him up for failure because you're asking him to do something that he's not naturally used to doing.
Yeah,
and like I said, that's not something that you're going to get in the off season. It's not something you're going to learn in the first few games how to see those holes.
Yeah,
and Anderson obviously can do that.
Yeah.
And so. Like I said, we got to make these adjustments. Some of it is, honoring Joyner because he's stuck with us through a lot.
Yeah, he has.
When he could have left, he's changed positions 3 times, doing whatever's asked of him. So, like I said, he needs to be on the field, but we're not helping him out either.
No. And, I was more impressed with our defensive line. Our defensive front 7. We got pressure on them.
We did.
We had some sacks. The linebackers played well. I really love Stone Blanton and Debo Williams. They're very good.
Stone had a very boneheaded play.
I don't even know what was going through. I don't even think he knew what was going through his head.
I think that
when that happened.
He's again young guy, and he's getting a lot of play time now. You're in an SEC environment.
Yeah,
you're just trying to make a play and kind of just lose your head there for a second.
I agree. Yeah,
but he's playing well. The defense as a whole, they played well. Like I said, they gave up. They have 1 bad quarter, and it really wasn't. Again, it wasn't a lot on them. We couldn't move the ball in the third quarter either. So, then again, you're putting the defense out there a lot. Georgia obviously made the right adjustments at halftime.
And it wasn't even them just beating us down the field. It was mostly these quick screens, 2-3 yard passes. They basically took
what we did in the first half that worked offensively and replicated that in the second half.
And we kept giving it to them. When when DBs are giving, 12 yards off the line,
right?
Take it, and then, but we couldn't do much with it after that because, like I said, our offense couldn't keep the defense off the field for that third quarter.
Yeah, it all boiled down to that 1 quarter where it just Georgia made the right adjustments.
Yeah.
And you can tell that they are the more experienced team.
They are, yeah.
I think they're the more experienced coaching staff as well. Yeah. You know, not to say that our coaching staff isn't good, but you got new pieces in there, and they're still trying to work, learn how to work together in game situations.
Yeah. And I know Georgia, their running back room was pretty hurt, but they did have a rusher that had over 100 yards of offense. We made adjustments in the second half. Unfortunately, it was just a little too late.
Right.
It took us to the fourth quarter to adjust, to make adjustments.
Yeah. And you just can't, once you give a team like Georgia any kind of, not necessarily motivation, but, once they get rolling, it's going to be hard to transition and stop them. We did, but like you said, it was just a little too late, and then we just couldn't do anything offensively.
Georgia did what good teams are supposed to do. Right. They found a way to win, even though they weren't having their best day.
Right. At the end of the day, though, it's always tough to say, you feel good after a loss. But I do feel more positive about the season moving forward. I think that there was a lot of things that we looked – the things that I was most concerned about, line play, defensive play, it looked better yesterday. Again, it's just still that one thing that's holding us back is the running game.
Yeah. And, I mean, hopefully they figure it out. And I think hopefully the offensive staff has realized, maybe it's time to make an adjustment.
Yeah. Because if we don't, it's going to be what holds us back. Yeah.
Especially when the East is not as strong this year. I mean,
no, if you pull that win out yesterday, South Carolina has a good chance to try and win the East.
And we'll talk about more of this later, but like I said, the SEC East is wide open. Outside of Georgia.
Yeah, especially, Tennessee losing to Florida yesterday.
Missouri winning. Missouri's 3-0. So, Clemson.
Well, and South Carolina will take on Mississippi State next week, so I'm not really sure what to think about that game. I mean, Mississippi State's 2-1, but
they didn't look.
I think they got blown out yesterday, didn't they?
They got beat 41-14 by Mississippi State.
By LSU.
LSU. Let's see here.
It's a home game for the FBI is showing, a 60% chance for the Gamecocks to win.
If we played like we did yesterday, I think we should beat Mississippi State pretty easily. Like I said, I mean, they were 2-0 going into the game yesterday, but they played Southeast Louisiana week 1, and then they beat Arizona 31-24 week 2. Let's see. Mississippi State gave up over, God, dude, LSU had a receiver had over 230 yards receiving. So clearly, it's either, we overreacted a little bit with LSU losing to Florida State,
right?
Or Mississippi State's just not that good. But I think we win this game. It's a night game at Williams-Brice, which is a tough environment to play in.
They're going to get in that film room probably today and take a lot of positives out of that Georgia game. If you can get any semblance of a running game, pair that with what we're already doing. I mean, looking at our schedule, especially after the way Tennessee looked, you could make a good run here and pull out a lot of wins. That here 2 weeks ago, honestly, after North Carolina, we looked so bad I didn't see many wins.
Yeah,
even though we lost yesterday, I see a lot of positives moving forward that makes me more hopeful of pulling some wins out. And like you said, these teams, they're not as formidable as you would have thought. Coming into the year, like Tennessee. They're ranked 11th. You would think, okay, well they're on their way back up, and then they lose to Florida yesterday. Like they just don't.
The Tennessee hype was good for one season. I think people are realizing Joe Milton's not a good quarterback. Yeah. He's been in college 5 years, and this is his first year starting. There's a reason why he transferred from Michigan. And there's a reason why. I mean, Hendon Hooker was just a generational talent there. I think we win. We've got Mississippi State next weekend. Then we travel to Tennessee.
Yep.
We've got a bye week. Then we've got Florida, which I can't get a good read on Florida.
You really can't get a good read on Tennessee either because you didn't think Florida was that good coming in, and then they beat Tennessee, and it's, all right, was Tennessee just not that good, or is Florida actually, or
I think it's a combination of both. I think it's a little bit of both, and I think it was a game Billy Napier needed to win.
Yeah,
because this is his second season, but he's already on the hot seat in Gainesville.
Yeah, if South Carolina can replicate that first half, every game, consistently for the rest of the year, they're going to pick up a lot of wins. This year.
I agree. I still think we're a 5 to 7 win team.
6 to 7 wins is where we should be in a year 3. Again, year 1 and 2 were overachievements. Where you should be in this, rebuild is right at 6 to 7 wins.
I agree.
If you get to that again this year, you're doing what you should be. You're on track for where you should be, for Beamer and, his coaching staff, especially, like you said, with the talent that the young guys that we're playing right now, they're showing, why we recruited them.
Yeah, for
sure. And then again, you have the best class that he's signed so far is coming up, with this coming up class. Yeah. So you're going to bring all those guys in. You're finally starting to get into guys that you want to have on the team.
Yeah.
Again, 6 to 7 wins is a very good year.
Yeah.
People want more, obviously, but you got to keep everything in mind of
if there's one thing
where
about
we're truly at.
There's one thing I'll say about our fan base outside of what you see on Twitter. We're a pretty patient fan base.
Yeah.
And like I said, we can see the thing with the Muschamp era is like we were patient with him, but you want to see improvement. We didn't improve under him. And you can see improvement. I saw a tweet by Brad Crawford with 24/7 Sports. Going into yesterday, South Carolina was 2-6 in SEC road games under Shane Beamer and has been abysmal in the first half of those defeats. In 6 losses, we were outscored 157-42 at halftime. Clearly, but that has been a theme under the past two coaches where these big games, we would always just come out flat. We would always hear, we have to do better as coaches.
Right.
Well, hopefully it's kind of turned for us.
Yeah, yesterday they played well. I think we coached well for the most part. We did make some adjustments a little too late, like you said, in the third quarter. But again, at the end of the day, Georgia is just more experienced.
Yeah.
They have more depth, and that's really what got us. It wasn't our talent level, or our coaching. Again, you can pick 1 or 2 things here and there, of course, and that's what the coaching staff's going to do this week. Just improve on, find those things that you didn't do good, improve on that, build on the things that you did, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree 100%.